There's certain holes I might lay up on just because of the situation. But for the most part, I'm going to be trying to go after it as much as I possibly can.
Okay, in this video, we'll take a look at Bryson DeChambeau, 2020 U.S. Open champion, who just obliterated the golf course, which was clearly very difficult for everybody else. But his power, his ability to rip it off the tee, and the ability to really get it out of the rough with that steeper angle in the swing, just sort of negated the rough compared to a lot of the players, I'm sure, who struggled with it. And really amazing sort of culmination of all his hard work to win that tournament and see it come together. And of course, geometrically, his swing is somewhat different. It perhaps isn't as different as it might appear to be, but there are some things he does that are just amazing in terms of strength moves, flexibility moves. We know he's put on all the weight and lifted and become extremely strong. But let's take a look at this swing from the geometrical standpoint, fundamentals, etc., and see what makes it tick. So certainly upright posture and the sort of getting the arms and the club shaft a little more on one single angle here. Not exactly. Certainly the arms are on a little different plane there, but certainly higher handle than most guys have it at address. Left hand probably weaker than most guys at address, or turned to the left more than a lot of players. And when he takes his club back, he keeps it nice and wide, of course, working it up the plane. And he's clearly done a lot of work to search the plane out and know where the hands should go and the club on the backswing. And at this point here, the face not rotating a whole lot, still pretty square. And then as he gets up here to the top, the position of the wrists here, very strong position, even though the wrist and hands looked weak at the beginning. Certainly the left wrist is very flat at this point. But because the grip was so weak at the beginning, the club face now really not that closed at all. If anything, it's slightly open at this point. The wrist probably has just a hint of a cupping there, just barely. And because of that, with the weaker left-hand position, the face is a little more toe down than you might see with a lot of the other players. And the reason this is significant to me as a fan and a coach is that when he starts this club down and puts this huge power move on, getting into the ground, using those legs like we see a lot of the players do, he has incredible width, incredible flexibility. For all that strength, he's very flexible. And getting to this point here, that club face is quite open. The left wrist is quite cupped and open. This position here is way more open than a lot of players, that face more up to the sky. And what that means is that as it comes down, he will have to rotate the left wrist and forearm to square that thing off. It's very open at this point. This ball, for a lot of players, wouldn't have the strength and flexibility to roll this wrist down and close this face. They would lose that ball off to the right. But for him, he's going to start rolling that wrist right there. You can see the bowing of the left wrist, very evident. And you can see this sort of the black line in the glove here. You can see it twisting downward as he comes through there. You can see that twisting motion, which is now closing the club face to get it back to square. And he's doing all that, creating 180 miles an hour plus ball speed, sometimes as much as 195 miles an hour ball speed. So he is going extremely fast, and yet is able to close that, get the club back in an amazing swing plane, release it a lot. You can see how much the face is flipped over here, and still hit the ball relatively straight. I mean, a lot straighter than maybe you should at that kind of club head speed. That is truly an incredible thing. And really a testament to the strength. I mean, the power and the strength in his arms, his core, certainly the forearms and hands and wrists to control that club at that speed. That is truly amazing to see. It's not common, and I doubt will be duplicated by too many people. If we go down the line, straight on angle here with the geometry, won't be as crystal clear without the ultra slow-mo there, but we can see the plane now, like you said, very aware of where the hand should go up on plane. Club head a little under the plane. Club head tracking a little under here. Making a big wide turn. hips and shoulders. And sort of an in-between position here at the top. He's on the plane, shaft plane there, little above, and then drops back down to the plane with the hands. And there's that really ultra athletic move. We've seen that with player after player, this understanding the power coming from sitting and creating very different angles on the downswing. So that the athletic part of the swing, the truly athletic power move, doesn't come from having an athletic setup. It's a comfortable balance setup, but it comes from an athletic move. I think a lot of the modern language coming from George Gankas and some other coaches who have studied biomechanics and studied physics, and they understand some of the terminology that's really hitting true with a lot of players, that they can tell them to be athletic in the downswing instead of the setup, and it's really helping people understand the feeling of the game. And if we look at the geometry once again through here, all that speed, but on plane. Look at the hands right back on the original plane and through. Like we said, 300 yards plus carry, sometimes 340 carry. Amazing. When we look at it from this angle, you can also sort of make some sort of argument there that it's almost old school in a way, where the arms and the triangle of the arms and shoulders is so much just linked together there. This is moving in a huge triangle fashion. Great width, great extension. Shoulders, arms, hips, everything going back together, super wide. And we'll see this through the short game when we look at that as well. Some iron shots and some pitch shots. He's amazing at keeping this width and control. And now, like I said, the downswing. Like I said, this is a strong, strong player, but flexible. There's all that width on the way through as well. And like I said, it's in some ways old school in terms of that big one-piece takeaway and reaching it up high. But in other ways, very much not conventional based on the overall geometry at the setup. Before we move to some other swings here, just a point to note with that grip, if you take a look at those hands, very much neutral or sort of a weak looking position, not weak in terms of grip pressure, weak in terms of positioning, where this hand is turned more this way. Instead of, traditionally you would see this hand much more over, like a Dustin Johnson, someone like that, much weaker. Not conventional these days, but I understand where he's coming from with the way he understands geometry, club face matching up, and all the things that he does to get the numbers right on the launch monitor, to get everything zeroed out properly, so his directional control is the best that he can create. One thing I really want to make sure that people know about his setup as well is that the grips are quite massive. He has sort of this Mo Norman-ish idea or concept with larger grip diameter, which I think for him also makes him feel like it's taking a variable out, maybe keeping the hands more at bay or keeping the club face more steady. Having more of an upright look to the swing or the setup, here you would expect that club to get off plane on the way through. You would see, as a coach, most of the time the club's sort of hovering out in here too much instead of getting it back on the plane through impact. But even though he's incredibly upright at address, club up the plane just like we saw with the driver, hands on plane. The iron goes up on a little steeper plane. He does hinge it up quicker. He's aware of where that club's got to go on the way up. And then back down, exactly matching at impact. Now with all that speed, because he's able to create these angles which are matching on the way through, he will control the ball, control the directional rather, not just the power, but the direction. And covering his bases and having the plane figured out, then it's much easier also to get the face matching as well. But it is incredible to see that much speed and that much of an upright plane always matching on the way through, because we could see with Matt Wolff and some of the trouble he had a little bit in the final part of the tournament, really matching that plane of his that gets out here and drops in and back around. It was harder for him to match that up as the tournament went on. He started hitting some hooks. But for Bryson, because he has these angles figured out and he has the club face figured out, he is able to be incredibly accurate all the way to the finish. So once again, kudos to him. Different from other players, but highly effective. Will it be duplicated? Time will tell. Will it be another player that's that strong and that flexible? We will find out. So to make these wedge shots work really well, does it somewhat the similar way as a Jason Day does it. He has a wide takeaway with very little hinge. As you can see there at the top, not much wrist cock there whatsoever. Super wide, almost like a giant putt. And that thing is just going up there without the face rotating much, without hinging a lot. Comes right back to where he started. And as we've highlighted some other videos with these wedge shots, and I know this might seem redundant, but very quiet feet at the moment of the strike. Because with the short irons, it allows you to be more accurate and more able to get the club on plane through the hitting zone and then let the foot come up later. And on the way through, you can see there he's really keeping the chest, hands, arms, and club all working as one unit out there with all that extension. And I am amazed at how accurate he is with this motion. But it is solid wedge play. The club on the way through has no rotation of the club face. You can see that on the way through right here. That club is still square. It is not rotated over, and that allows him to plane it out with a square face, and he hits a lot of great wedge shots really close to the pin. Now, any look at Bryson's golf game, I don't think would be complete without discussing his putting a little bit. We'll see from another angle that the putter itself is up resting against the forearm. It's actually right up there against the forearm on the inside. An incredibly upright lie angle, so the angle coming up from the club head, more upright than normal. And it really allows him, as much as any player, to swing the putter on a straighter line. So for him, if he has an idea that he can track this putter on a straight line back and through, where most players really know they kind of work the club on a slight arc. And I think with his feel, he's done side saddle, he's done a lot of things to try to get as upright and straight putting stroke as he can. Certainly fits in with the geometrical model of the way he plays. That allows him to work the putter back and through as straight as possible with as little club face deviation as possible. And if there's a guy out there that's a pendulum, he's it. He is weak grip, shoulders. You can see that just the way everything is positioned here, even the hunching of the left shoulder there to create this movement where the putter face has no change in position and the putter tracks is on as straight a line as he can possibly make it go on. It's a great view here where you can really see the putter resting on the inside of the forearm up there, very long putter, and how sort of awkward it looks, like he's hunching these shoulders. Super upright lie angle. It almost looks vertical. It's not, but it almost is. And then trying to work that putter, like we said, back and through on an incredibly straight line with no twisting of the club face, of course, back and through, and the putter plane or line trying to be as straight as he can possibly make it go. And like I said, for most players, this is awkward. It feels contrived, but I understand, he's done it for a long time. He's got the idea of how the putter itself should work, and he's going to make it work. He's going to have a putter built to work this way and create a stroke also to make it work. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this video, taking a look at Bryson DeChambeau's swing. His physical strength, power, clubhead speed, allowing him to rip it down the fairways. And when it wasn't in the fairway, he could get it out of that rough with a little steeper angle. And his strength and power allowed him to get around this golf course, which just buckled everybody else. But he was able to dominate the course and the tournament. So hats off to him. What a great tournament. Thanks again for watching. If it's your first time here, please consider subscribing. And if you like the video, please hit that like button, and we will see you in the next one.